Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this Games Edition video we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped up over the past 24 or so hours. We're going to be starting things out with Intel because they are partnering with Microsoft, Dell, HP and other companies to make 5G laptops a reality. Then we'll move over to the SEC. They are warning tech executives to not trade stocks while they are investigating security flaws. Not anything to do with Intel, I promise you. Then we'll move over to the big elephant in the room for the past several months. That's right, net neutrality. It is over with, ladies and gentlemen. It is ending in April. So how will individual states manage this? Well, we'll discuss that in this very video. Then we'll finish with a slightly lighter note, because always connected Windows and Arm machines will be coming in this quarter. And that will be from also a bunch of different companies. One quick thing. I have actually conducted the interview with F-Secure today. It was a really good interview, about 60-70 minutes. So if you're interested in cloud technology, security, or plum hacking, or anything along those lines at all, you're going to be really happy with that interview because, as I said, it covers pretty much everything from cryptocurrency, ransomware, VPNs, and a lot of other stuff, including even how viruses are detected. So it's really awesome. Very excellent interview, and I would like to extend my gratitude for them for the interview. It wasn't a sponsored video or anything like that, but it was a really good interview, and hopefully we'll have a second one popping up soon, and there'll be another interview from Neil from Nvidia/Kronos Group. That should be really good, because hopefully we'll have a couple of exclusives to actually reveal to you all, and there'll be some other bits and pieces as well. So normal stuff, you know, like, share, subscribe, and, you know, embrace me in a big group hug, and we shall, you know, endeavour to cover all these topics together. But with that said, let's start out with Intel. By the end of next year, Intel wants you to be able to purchase a laptop which has a 5G cellular connection, and they will be collaborating with huge names in the industry. Microsoft, Dell, HP, Lenovo, and all four of these companies will be working towards producing PCs along with, of course, Intel's technology, i.e. modems, and having those on your store shelves by holiday 2019. And once again, this is with built-in 5G connections. Now, lest you panic, 5G will also be compatible with older technologies as well. So 2G, 3G, and LTE. This is very impressive indeed, because obviously 5G deployment in terms of networks from, you know, carriers is probably not going to be exactly that far along. And that's putting it mildly, depending obviously on the area you're living. And the goal here is to provide gigabit internet speeds. Qualcomm, meanwhile, is looking to put 5G modems inside devices, and it's working with 18 different phone companies to release various products. This thing, unfortunately, like any mobile technology, is pretty much area dependent. So obviously, if you are in certain areas, rural areas in particular, well, good luck to you. And if you're in, you know, major cities, that type of place, then obviously you're going to have a much better deal of it. You know what's absolutely crazy to me? Slightly off topic. Just how bloody fast cellular connections are now. I mean, even like a 4G. I remember when I first got a cable modem, and yes, I'm going to go with the back in my day. I remember coming from a 56k modem, which I used to be able to download at like 4 kilobytes a second back in the late 90s. And bloody hell, if I got like 4.5 kilobytes per second, I would be doing a jig. Anyway, I upgraded to a 512 kilobyte connection, and it felt like a revelation. It was incredible. You know, you were downloading files at like 60, 70 kilobytes a second, and my goodness, you were so happy. It was incredible, the speed comparison. And obviously back then, online gaming was starting to become a thing as well. And eventually I upgraded to 1 megabyte, then 1.5 I think was a free upgrade, then 3 megabyte, then 10 megabyte, and I'm not going to bother to continue after that because it gets to silly speeds. My point being that it's crazy to me that we have such a ridiculous bandwidth available to us in the mobile form, and it's absolutely amazing. So you might recall that just a short while ago, Intel, specifically the CEO of Intel, was kind of facing some accusations. Essentially, before it was publicly revealed that Intel Brian Krasnich decided to sell a large number of his stock. How much? Well, about 80%. So the Securities and Exchange Commission, which of course is from the United States, decided to release a statement and some new guidelines. And the guidelines read as follows. Directors, officers and other corporate insiders must not trade a public company's securities while in possession of material, non-public information, which may include knowledge regarding significant cybersecurity incidents experienced by the company. There is no doubt that the cybersecurity landscape and risk association will continue to evolve. And this was according to the SEC chairman, Jay Clayton. I have asked the Division of Corporate Finance to continue to carefully monitor cybersecurity disclosures as part of the selective filing review. We will continue to evaluate development in this area and consider feedback about whether further guidelines or rules are needed. So currently, just for clarification's sake, the actual CEO of Intel, Brian, is not being investigated. Perhaps behind the scenes there's some murmurs or maybe he got a slap on the wrist, but at least officially, no. And to be fair to Brian, he's not the only person who's had these kind of allegations. There was an incident before Intel with the Equifax breach, and they had 4 executives there which sold stock worth about $1.8 million US, and this was after the company discovered the major breach, but before it was publicly disclosed. So obviously in Intel's case it was Spectre and Meltdown. Brian was obviously concerned, at least that's what the allegations say. To be fair, Intel stock has rebounded fairly well, but that's not to say that, well, this stuff doesn't stick. The ironic thing, of course, is that his decision eventually bit him in the ass, assuming he did do it for these reasons. Perhaps he needed to buy, I don't know, a new yacht or whatever, but it did bite him in the ass simply because eventually the stock actually even rebounded higher than before the vulnerabilities were discovered. So it is what it is. So, that's it. It's over. On April the 23rd, net neutrality will die. It will be repealed on that date. And this has been disclosed because the order was published on the Federal Register earlier this morning, which currently, by the way, is the 22nd of February 2018. Now, just if you're not angry, I'm going to stoke the fires. Can you feel me stoking them? Poke, 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 stoke, stoke, stoke. Anywho, there were actually discoveries which led us to realise that the lawmakers which sold your rights, and this means that they're essentially profiting off this, Congress has accepted over 100 million in donations from various telecom giants. Now, I'm not going to read out the list because I don't feel it's necessarily appropriate for this video, but you can Google it if you desire. But the ranges of various people who received donations ranges from, oh, you know, not bad, a couple of pennies really, like $13,000, minuscule, to, well, less small fees, like 600 grand, you know, not bad, 800,000. Yeah. Anyway, there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and that is that the FCC perhaps have voted to repeal this, but various lawmakers in about half the states, actually over half the US states, have introduced bills to protect net neutrality while a telecoms communication company operates within that state. In essence, they're essentially saying, okay, well, yeah, the government as a wider whole are telling us, yeah, you can do whatever you want, but if you want business in our state, well, buddy, you've got some stuff you need to comply with. And the governors of 5 states have signed executive orders to protect net neutrality as well. However, the FCC, as you would expect, are fighting back, and this is what they're using is preemption powers. And how this works is essentially because broadband services work in an interstate way. After all, telecoms communications cross various state lines. It's not like there's a clear delimitation which says, okay, the cable stops here. That doesn't work because obviously traffic needs to be routed and all that stuff. So they are trying to fight against this. And this is where you get the legal grey area. The FCC preemption powers are limited, and not everyone is convinced that FCC can actually stop states from protecting net neutrality. So even legal experts are essentially saying, well, maybe. The EFF lawyer, who is arguing against this, Mr. Falcon, said, and I quote, "I wholeheartedly agree with Howard's assessment that the FCC appears to have no preemption powers under Title I of the Communications Act." This was told to Ars Technica, and he continues to say that he believes that there's about a 10% chance that the states would have a chance of making net neutrality laws hold up in court. When Congress has nothing really written in law, then it's a dormant commerce clause question where states are restricted in two ways. They can't discriminate against out-of-state economic actors in favour of in-state actors, and they can't unduly burden interstate commercial activity, and must have strong state interests. The light at the very, 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 very end of the tunnel, it's like a pinprick of light where you're kind of grasping for air at this point, and that is that states can legally enforce net neutrality in the role of purchasers of internet services. And therefore, Mr. Falcon says, we agree states are fully empowered to act as buyers of broadband service, which is not regulation. When a state is simply acting as a buyer, there is a commercial clause, question either. States can spend money however they may choose. And lastly, about half of the states in the US are currently suing the FCC and trying to force them to overturn net neutrality. So even if the lawsuits don't succeed, net neutrality will face difficulties. Now, my personal opinion on this, and this is not based upon extreme knowledge of the US political system or the laws. I am saying that right now. So if I'm wrong, don't lambast me in the comments. But my personal take on this is that I don't think this is going to last forever. One of the ladies who voted against repealing that net neutralities, I'm sorry, I can't remember the lady's name, but you can look it up on YouTube, and she was not happy. I was going to say a different word, but she was not happy. You could tell that she essentially wanted to dropkick everyone in the room and then hit them with a fire axe. But you know, she was angry, and she said, "Look, this is not going to remain." And I agree with her. Look, the bottom line is governments change, and you, if you're an American, obviously if you're from Zimbabwe, perhaps not, or if you're from, you know, even England like myself, can't really do much. But if you are an American, you have something which is the most powerful thing you can have anywhere, and that is freedom to vote. You have the freedom to tell officials, "Oh, so you want to be re-elected, huh? Well, about that, basically what I'm telling you is that things change, pressure changes, and the political landscape will change. And as younger people get into power, as younger people learn that they need to vote, and I'm not saying this is a political message, you can do you. If you believe in net neutrality, or you don't believe in net neutrality, that's your decision. But if you're angry about the ending of net neutrality, I'm just trying to say, my personal opinion, if enough people want this back in, if enough people want tougher laws, and if those individuals get in power or elect those officials who believe in their causes and they do vote, well, by golly gosh, things will change eventually. It may take a while. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not going to say it's going to happen in 2020 or 2024 or even 2028. But it will happen without any question. And finally, a lighter note, and a somewhat ironic note, always connected Windows on ARM machines will be released this quarter. And these beautiful little systems will be powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon ARM 835 processor. There will be initially 3 systems available: HP's Envy X2 tablet, and that has a detachable keyboard. There's also Lenovo's Mix, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, it's MIIX 630, and also Asus's Nova Go. So what does this mean? Well, it gives us a date, because Qualcomm are telling us that retail availability will begin this calendar quarter, meaning essentially for those wanting to run Windows 10 on ARM. Do remember just a couple of days ago we put out a video to tell you some of the drawbacks, like x86 applications on ARM, not so much, plus some other things with drivers and other bits and bobs. But if you want to check that out, you can look at the video. So ARM will be released, sorry, Windows 10 on ARM will be hitting store shelves this calendar year, so you won't need to wait too long. With all of that said, hopefully you have enjoyed the video, my friends. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.